Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for May 15th, 2024. Well, yesterday we had a PPI number that came out hotter than expected, and the market didn't even blink. It had no concern about that number whatsoever. So 3 months in a row of increasing PPI, and the market says, we don't care about no stinking PPI or inflation. We want to buy something. And we moved on up yesterday, and I think it was mostly corporate buybacks moving things on up. Now, the question for today is, will we have the same attitude with the CPI? The CPI expected headline number is supposed to go up 4%. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But of course, that's not the only data point today that we're going to have to deal with. So let's take a look at what happened overnight here in the market. And there are certainly some interesting things to be paying attention to. Asian markets, we had some of the Asian markets close last night, but Asian markets were mixed overnight. Hong Kong and Shanghai were down last night slightly, they were reacting more to our U.S. inflation data than we did here in the United States. European markets are very modestly trading this morning, mixed at the moment, but also just a little bit more worried about our potential numbers than what we seem to be. But right now, doing okay over there. Here in the U.S., well, except for the NASDAQ at the moment here in the really early pre-market, we're pretty flat. Green in the Dow futures and S&P 500 futures, with NASDAQ futures looking just a little bit lower this morning as we head in to a big day of data. Let's take a look at our oil prices this morning. Oil happens to be moving up a little bit this morning. Yesterday we started moving up and then reversed and came down. Remember, today on the economic calendar, we're going to have our petroleum status number, and if we remember from last week, the petroleum status number showed a decline in supplies. And even though we've got oil prices pulling back, that'll be really, really important today. So this morning we've got oil up 12 cents at 78.14 a barrel. Brent is up 8 cents at 82.46 a barrel, and natural gas at the moment is up almost 2 cents. If we take a look at our precious metals, continuing to move to the upside, gold being up $16.30 an ounce, silver up 45 cents, copper is moving higher this morning. In fact, copper futures hitting all-time highs. Real issues with copper supplies running low. And then we've got platinum and palladium also higher this morning. If we take a look at our cryptos, well, we're getting a bounce back up. Yesterday at the close, we were down about $1,500 a coin on Bitcoin. This morning, we're looking at a rebound up about almost $1,200 here at the moment, with a very substantial mix in those coins this morning. So if we take a look at bonds, here's another thing that's really kind of interesting. Our bonds are going down here this morning as we head into the CPI number. 2-year bonds at 4.80, 10-year bonds at 4.42, and 30-year bonds at 4.57. Now, I suspect part of this is due to that Treasury activity where they are swapping out bonds for the banks and doing some buying in there on that. So that's probably helping the bonds more than anything else. But it is kind of interesting heading into some of these numbers that they're able to overcome the concern that the market should have on rising inflation again. But right now, no one seems to care. If we wind that up and say, what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. let's get ready for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's try to shake off any bias that we have in the market, and let's take a look at these index charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Well, first off, we have a very big day today here in the market. So by the time the market opens, so much could change here with all the data coming out this morning. But if we take a look at what we've got going on right now, we had a good bullish push up yesterday, although we had a minor reaction to higher PPI numbers, which usually translates into higher prices for the consumer. But it didn't last very long, and notice that we were relatively low in volume, and that's across the board in our indexes. Pretty low on volume. I think what we saw yesterday was another push on corporate buybacks that helped everything hold up here pretty strong. So if we take a look at what we've got going on in here, remember I drew this line on here, that possibility that this could be a lower high, we still have to consider that possibility. But right now we're showing so much bullishness and so much willingness to ignore some of the data coming out that there's every reason to believe that we could push right on through that resistance in the chart and start coming up here to test these highs and possibly even all-time highs in the market. As a matter of fact, I would say if the CPI comes in better than expected, then I would expect a big gap up open this morning. The market, it would likely celebrate in a really big way if we have an unexpected surprise to the market on inflation. Now, if the number were to come in hot, well, I would normally say if the number comes in hot, look for some really substantial reaction to the downside. Yesterday showed us that the PPI came in hot and the market went, whatever, we want to buy something. So we'll want to watch this carefully today. I really have no idea what the reaction will be here. And remembering that we have more than the CPI number coming in today that could be of interest. So if the bears were to grab a hold of something in here, well, a test back down in here would be the first place I would be watching, testing some of that support, and then we would start pushing back down into some of these price levels in the chart, and then progressively moving on lower through that until we may be coming back toward that 50-day moving average in the chart if we get some disappointment in the market. So keep an eye out. If we look at our SPY, also pushing up. Boy, we are so close here on the SPY, and you can see they're trying to pump here a little bit in the pre-market already on that, trying to push us up here to see if we can break through, catch those all-time highs. And we are so close to that. It would almost be disappointing at this point if they failed to make an all-time high. And I think they're going to pull out the stops. They're going to make sure we hit some all-time highs here in the market. Now the question is, once we hit those all-time highs, based on the numbers that we are seeing economically, will we be able to hold those all-time highs? Remember, we are very, very extended in this short-term move with really no rest or pullback from the beginning of this big rally, and we are stretched far away from our 50-day moving average. So just kind of keep that in mind. If we, for some reason, push on through, we could get a big pop and drop type situation today as well. Gap up through that number and then see selling from there on. So watch that carefully today. If the bulls can continue to push, I think we can break right through there. And then once we're up there, all-time highs, blue skies above, anything is possible. If the bears, for some reason, find a reason to engage, well, we'll be watching the bottom of these three candles here for a little support. If that were to fail, then I'm going to suggest we're likely going to come down into this trend, maybe testing some support in here beyond that, support down in here, and that's going to return us back to our 50-day moving average. If we take a look at our QQQ, boy, we are so close to making an all-time high breakout here. They're squeezing and stretching everything they can to make that occur. And I think it's very, very possible that we could see a push up here at this point and breaking through those all-time highs. And then, of course, we've got blue sky above beyond that. So watch that closely. Now, we still want to continue to remind ourselves that we are very extended in the short term. And that push that may push us up there could immediately find some selling on that move, just because we finally made the goal happen that the market wants, and then see some selling coming in. That being said, if we can continue to push through, well, there's nothing up there to stop us. If the bears find inspiration here today, then look for a little bit of a pullback in here, and I would say coming back down and retesting this candle's low if we were to get engaged here. And then notice we've got a little bit of price support right in here that we could slide down through, and then we're coming back into here, breaking our little upside trend, and maybe coming back down toward that 50-day moving average in the charts. If we look at our Russell, IWM continued to move up yesterday, pushing through. We had that whipsaw in the day, and I would be watching for those whipsaws to continue here today as well. We seem to either gap up and then sell off immediately, or we gap down and buy it up immediately, and it happens pretty much every day. At least it has for the last month or so. That's our normal price move. So be careful engaging first thing in the morning, making that knee-jerk reaction into a trade, because you might get whipsawed on that position. Now, if we can continue to push here in the IWM, and I see every reason that's possible, then we could push right up here into this major resistance area, and breaking through there could be huge, because if we break through there, we're breaking into this multi-year, breaking through that multi-year high resistance area in the chart. Now, you'll note here recently we've done that twice before, and then we rejected that. And that's one of the things when we stretch big in the market, I worry when we make some of those big breakouts that we might see some selling then come in just to rest the market back in a normal pattern. So be careful of chasing in on these moves to the upside. Now, if we break up into there and we start moving up, well, then we're going to start moving up progressively, testing through these resistance levels in the chart, trying to make IWM reach those all-time highs as well. Should the bears come in and find reason, then I'm going to suggest coming back down here to test this area of support off the top of these candles. Breaking down through there, we're going to maybe slip this upside trend a little bit, and we'll test the bottom side of those candles and start progressing back down toward that 50-day moving average in IWM. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX yesterday popped up a little bit. We saw that reversal first thing in the morning where we gapped up and pulled back. Saw a little bit of concern on that move. So we ended up closing our VIX down just slightly from yesterday, but holding right in there on this little price support across in here on about 13.5 handles on the VIX. So we are seeing in the VIX maybe just a little bit more concern based on the data points today. And that's why I say if those numbers come in better than expected, expect the market to just truly celebrate. I mean party like it's 1999 if those numbers happen to come in better, because they chose to ignore the PPI. They're hoping, they must be hoping for some pretty good numbers. So watch carefully for that. And then if we take a look at our VIX, our T20s, Our T2122 indicator, well, we ended up tucking right up underneath that bearish reversal zone. So any gap up this morning will push us up here into that bearish reversal area of the market. There again, that's indicating that point that we might get a number that's better than expected. We pop through, we make all-time highs, and then we just run out of space. Everybody that's in is going to be in, and then we may start that pullback in the market. So be really careful up here. Remember, we can't go above 100 here in T2122. It's not possible, and you can see we'll poke through these areas for as long as you want to go back. We can poke through those areas, and we can linger up in here bouncing around, but we can't go any higher than that. If we take a look at the potential downside in here, well, if the bears find inspiration, we just want to recognize that the pullback could be substantial and a little bit painful if those bears were to engage. So make sure you have a plan to protect yourself. I have no idea what the data is going to be today. I have no idea what the reaction to the market's going to be today. Anything could be possible, so make sure you're prepared with some kind of action plan to protect yourself in case those bears do suddenly show up. And then our T2108 continued to push on up yesterday, so bulls maintaining control. Absolutely no problem here yesterday. We're pushing up into some resistance areas in the chart, and you might want to notice that we've got a little bit of a downtrend here that we're coming into. So as we push up into these resistance areas, keep watching for those potentials they can break. Particularly if we get that better than expected number on CPI, watch that carefully here in the chart. And if we pull back, really no particular worries in here unless we pull back really hard, because we've got some nice support levels here in the chart that could protect us overall. And then our T2107. There we go. T2107 also pushing up here. Now I will say on T2107, we're not quite into that frothy area yet. Above 60, up into that 65 area becomes a little bit frothy, and you can see we have trouble holding those numbers up here. But you can see we're pushing right up there towards 60, right into some of these resistance highs in the chart. But a good CPI number for the market could certainly push us right up into that without any question. And then if we do find some bearish information today, then we've got some support levels here in the chart to be looking for as well. But clearly in T2107 right now, bulls are in control. And then if we take a look at T2101, our T2101 kind of showed us why our volume was so low yesterday, and why I believe it was really corporate buybacks that did most of the buying in here. Most of the lift yesterday is because our breadth continued to fall on that rally yesterday. We had very low breadth. Now we are at the end of the day caught this little hook because we surged right at the end of the day. So we got this little hook in this upside trend. So if we can get that good data today to really drive those buyers, we might see that breadth on the bullish side pick up here. So keep an eye on that. That's why I think we could really pop if those numbers are big. When the market opens, we could be big up to the upside. The opposite could also be true. If for some reason those bears engage, we could see us be sharply lower at the open, and we may also see breadth increase here on the sell wave. So watch that carefully in here with that little hook showing up in the chart. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. Our economic calendar, taking a look at what we've got going here today, we've got quite a bit. We've got a CPI number. Headline number is expected to come in at 0.4%, showing an increase overall month over month. But they are expecting the year over year to show a 1/10 decline. So keep an eye on those numbers. That could be obviously very, very important for today on how they come in. And your guess is as good as mine. And then, of course, we're going to get retail sales. Now, retail sales are expected to drop fairly substantially. We're continuing to see this problem with the consumers, and consensus is suggesting a pretty substantial pullback in retail sales. So keep an eye on that today. That could inspire the bears. Empire State Manufacturing, this has been a negative number for so long, and we don't care. For some reason, the market just doesn't care that manufacturing is suffering. They are, however, expecting this number to improve just slightly today, just a little bit smaller negative number on Empire State Manufacturing. Business inventories, those are expected to decline. We've got housing market index in here for today. We've got a petroleum status number. We know that's important to watch our oil sector area of the market with this number. And then past that, we've got Kashkari speaking, we've got Bauman, we've got a bill auction, and the Treasury International Capital. Rolling into Thursday, we don't get much of a break here. Certainly we'll be out from under the inflation numbers, but we're going to get housing starts and permits, jobless claims, Philly Fed, import-export prices, industrial production. We've got Barr speaking. We've got Hawker speaking with a natural gas report. Then later on the day, we've got Mester speaking, and we've got Bostic speaking here. So along with that Fed balance sheet. So a busy day on Thursday as well. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for this morning. And our earnings calendar, well, it's really not that big a deal. Today we have a much smaller earnings calendar than we have had here recently. But let me go through these real quickly this morning. The reports this morning, ARCO. We'll catch a report from them. We're going to hear from Dole. We're going to hear from DT this morning, MNDY, and RSKD. They will be reporting this morning, so keep an eye on that. Those are the notables in the pre-market here or this morning to be watching. Now, this afternoon, our most notable report is going to be Cisco. Cisco will be reporting after the bell, so keep an eye on that this afternoon. If you want to catch the full list of notables, make sure to click the link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog where you can catch that full list of notables for today. How about we take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today? But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does do that and taking the time. And believe me, I understand how monotonous that gets to be asked to do something like that every single market day. I understand it. So the folks that do, I truly do appreciate it, because I know how monotonous it gets, and the work it takes to put these videos out every day it also gets a little bit on the monotonous side. But thank you for everyone who does take the time. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Now, let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up. And remember, everyone, these aren't recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very careful in the market. Make sure you're paying close attention to these events coming off here today, because they could create considerable volatility. So make sure you're following your rules for the market and your risk tolerances before making any decision on any trade. Never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade idea. Let's take a look in here. First off, let's take a look at TSM. TSM, I'd placed an alert on this chart, and yesterday we kind of stretched right up through that, pushing on through. TSM, nice little upside move, and if we continue to see the tech sector rally, I think there's every reason to believe TSM could break through this resistance and continue to push on higher. So I would keep a pretty close eye on that. Looking pretty good, and that possibility that we could break out. Now, you'll notice that this is a big level that we broke through here on TSM, and holding above that is significant, and you can see all-time highs out here in the chart possibly happening. So TSM, one to keep an eye on. NVIDIA, I think NVIDIA is another one to be keeping an eye on. It's been behaving really nicely here in this nice little resting consolidation. Very, very bullish pattern at the moment. Now, I know this is really expensive. I get criticized sometimes because I show stocks like that folks say, look, I can't afford to trade that. And I get it. I understand. But it is a very, very bullish pattern, and I would be keeping an eye on that closely. Every reason to believe if we get good economic numbers today that we could see this push on through to the upside. It's right where we would want to see that, right off a support, right off a trend. Watch for that follow through from that nice bullish candle yesterday to see if we can push on up. Take a look at Boeing. Now, Boeing had some news out today where now the government is after them because they violated some agreement. So Boeing can't seem to get out of its own way here with problems going on. But I placed an alert on this because I really like this tight consolidation pattern. This tight consolidation pattern sets up for a nice upside move if we can get that pop. So if those bulls were to come in there and pop that through, that could be a pretty nice potential entry. And looking at right in here, that would break us through that 50-day moving average and set up that potential rounded bottom breakout pattern that we talk about a lot. I would be watching that pretty closely here in the chart. As you guys know, and this isn't to toot my own horn or anything like that, but you guys know that I've been mentioning 3M, to be keeping an eye on 3M. And this pattern, guys, that it's the pattern that I trade over and over and over, a very high probability pattern. We move up, we rest, we come back, we find support, we find trend. This has a very high probability of winning. And it's why I can push these ideas out to you and say I would keep an eye on that chart. And we've pushed on through here in 3M. Now we're resting a little bit with these inflationary numbers because we've got some uncertainty here to be worried about. But we could easily set up another pattern here to move on through to the upside. Keep an eye on stocks like 3M. It's a good, strong dividend payer. And what we're seeing is a lot of these big dividend payers are catching some favor in the market with the uncertainty and heading into the summer. If we take a look at stocks like Altria, there's that pattern again right there. Push up, pull back, very high probability winning trade. Breaking through this resistance, I would suggest this needs a little rest or pullback at this point. If this would rest, consolidate, holding above this area, could set up that next opportunity to the upside. Take a look at Mondelez. The Mondelez setting up that potential pattern and a inverted head and shoulders pattern combined in here. There you go, pushing in here that possibility we could push on through. Again, defensive sector, a nice little dividend coming possibly in there. I like the way that we tried to push down yesterday and it was rejected, ended up hammering. So that opportunity that we could start pushing right on through here on Mondelez would be something I would want to be paying attention to. Holding above its 50 and 200-day moving average is a good thing as well. We've got this major accumulation of moving averages holding it as support. So keep an eye on Mondelez, looking pretty good overall. Now, we did have some defensive sector stocks yesterday pulling back just a little bit. Coke, but look at how many days that's been moving to the upside. Coke resting, PepsiCo, resting just a little bit, but I would still continue to keep an eye on these. Any rest pullback in here sets up those opportunities. Even like Keurig Dr. Pepper, looking pretty good after breaking through this major resistance. Notice this big consolidation here, and it's a funny how if you go back and you look at a chart, similar patterns will show themselves. We gapped up here apparently on an earnings, and then we ended up resting a long time and eventually fell. Look for that rest in here to continue until we come out to this trend, and we'll see if we'll make that decision to go up or down in this chart. So I would keep an eye on Dr. Pepper Keurig for that potential if the market is going to remain bullish here. Watch those closely. Keep an eye also on these commodity prices or commodity stocks. Now, corn had a little bit of rest in here. Bearish engulfing candle, as a matter of fact, yesterday. So don't be too surprised if this has to pull back to trend or consolidate over toward that trend. But I would continue to watch those possibilities here in corn. Wheat has been extremely strong, largely due to some major crop problems out of the Ukraine, and they are a huge producer of wheat. So keep an eye on that. Soybeans also in a very, very bullish setup. Take a look at our precious metals. Take a look at GLD here. This is a very bullish pattern setting up here. We had that abandoned baby pattern that set up here, but that's been absolutely rejected here at the moment, pushing up, and there's every reason to believe we can continue to push higher here in gold. So keep an eye on GLD, keep an eye on silver, keep an eye on the miners. GDX is looking good. Keep an eye on the leveraged stock here in Gold Nugget. That's looking good. PHYS physical gold also setting up in a bullish pattern. You might want to keep an eye on just individual gold stocks. AU, Newmont, lots of bullish patterns in here. Junior miners also looking very good at the moment, showing quite a bit of strength. So I would be keeping an eye on some of those precious metals as well. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Thanks so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Be careful, be safe here this morning. Anything is possible at the open, and then make that evaluation whether the risk is worth getting in. I would expect some whipsaws and some really big point moves. First thing here this morning, how the market reacts is anybody's guess. We'll have to move with that market condition once that reaction occurs. So with that, I will see you right back here bright and early Thursday morning. And as always, I wish you all the very, very best. Take care.